Yvonne, would you tell us kindly what your background is and what made you get on board with this project?
Yes, thank you. I've been a voice coach for 35 years now, working with actors and performers on stage, on screen and in the studio. So at one level, voiceover artists and that side of things, but also with theatre, very much classical theatre. I'm freelance with the National Theatre, the Royal Shakespeare Company and Shakespeare's Globe. And I had known Mark for a number of years, having first met him on a Shakespeare workshop, and really enjoyed the various skills and so on that Mark as an actor has honed over the years in terms of history and his involvement with reenactment. And when he approached me and said he wanted to perform the monologue of Richard in Pontefract Castle, actually on location, and would I direct him in it, I felt honoured. I thought, here's an actor who will speak his Shakespeare extremely well, and he's got a great vision for the piece, and I thought, this is very exciting, and let's do it.
Fantastic, thank you very much. How important do you think this experience was for you?
For me, as a voice coach and directing, very important. It was an opportunity to work on the speech in a way that one rarely can. On stage, it has to run in real time, and the actor has X minutes to get through that speech in the context of a whole live production. And very rare to be able to take something, to use the term site-specific, to take it site-specifically to Pontefract, where Richard was imprisoned and where he died. And I thought this is wonderful, both of those involved at Pontefract who look after the site these days, the ruins, but to work with an actor who has had a passion to do this speech on location. So it's a very important piece of work. It's also a chance to explore the speech again, and also to put it very much in a real prison cell and see what kind of pressure that would bring creatively.
Fantastic, thank you very much. You work a lot on Shakespeare's plays in the theatre. Was this an entirely different experience? What did you get out of directing the speech for the screen as opposed to the theatre?
Yes, a very different experience. At one level, coaching an actor, supporting their work, or even directing an actor for stage, as I say, it runs in real time, where this didn't need to. But of course, the big difference between stage acting and screen acting, the stage acting is driven by words and the oral, but the screen is driven by picture. It's picture first on the screen. So the whole visual journey through this piece and the opportunity to go much further with the costume, the makeup, the positioning within location of an actor who's really going to be in a prison cell for an entire day in very real cold, damp conditions, and dirty conditions and hard floor and all the rest of it to actually perform from. I thought this gives us a little bit of insight as well to someone having to live in these conditions for real. And the journey through the speech had much more meaning and much more resonance, and one had much more sense, of course, bringing it to screen. One could imply the passing of time, much longer time, by putting it through a sequence of events rather than one speech from beginning to end.
Great, thank you. There are some people who say that Shakespeare can't be done on screen or should never be done on screen. Do you agree with that?
I completely disagree with that. And Shakespeare wrote a play called As You Like It. He subtitled another play, Twelfth Night, What You Will. He didn't invent a single story. He borrowed his stories, but put them together so well in writing about the human condition, and knew how to pack a theatre and knew how to draw a crowd. And I think really used what was available, everything that was available in his time, to really give people, at one level, their entertainment, but at another level to challenge them, to move them. And he says himself in his rant about bad acting and good acting, thinly disguised as Hamlet, that good acting is about holding the mirror up to nature, reflecting what real life looks and sounds like. And this was an opportunity in a real prison cell to touch on that in much more detail and connect with it than one could on a nicely lit stage. I think if Shakespeare were alive now, based on the fact he named 2 plays after what his audiences wanted, I think he'd be using all sorts of technology. If he was still on stage with stuff, I actually think he'd be using camera and goodness knows what else.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Are there any other art forms that influence your work, whether nature, music, science or visual art?
Yes, I am someone who's very curious and very hungry by nature to learn and be open, hopefully, to a range of things. And that range of things at one level might go back to the influences from classical theatre, the ancient Greeks. It might include nature. The natural world, I think, is hugely important. And someone like Shakespeare, of course, writes endlessly about it. And its value and its influence. I think also winding forward, the latest gizmos and technology and the age in which we live now is exciting, and for us to be able to embrace all of that, to literally chronicle the times in which we live, has been something that theatre and playwriting or screenwriting has done for a very, very long time. And I think also in creating a role, supporting an actor in creating a role, one is thinking, yes, of the physical, the movement, the vocal, the voice and the speech. One is thinking of what I call the inner voice, the core beliefs, the attitudes and emotion and thought. And also a spiritual level, I think, is very important, and certainly was very important in this piece. And I think it's aptly named The Sacred King for that reason, and the journey of Richard, struggling at first. We find him lying on the floor as a broken man, suffering hugely, and with a sense of prayer and calling out to God and really trying to make sense of where he is and stop himself from going crazy. He's going to hammer it out. He's going to try and populate this solitary confinement with what he can find there, which are thoughts and memories. And to find him in that place, first of all, prostrate before his God, and then by the end of it, in repose and at peace and resigned to his fate. This was something in meeting with Mark, first of all, his idea of this journey. I thought that is wonderful. That enables the whole speech to be opened up and do a very visual journey and a huge spiritual journey in great detail, but also very economically through the passage of that monologue.
Lovely, thank you very much. What would you say is going to be the most memorable aspect of this project?
I think 2 things to answer that question. One of them is just how wonderfully profound something like this can be. And a rare chance to go to an actual location and be in an actual prison cell and feel that damp and cold and the hardness of it, even just for one day, was tough in one sense and moving and very appropriate and informed the work hugely. At another level, and always with the greatest respect, huge respect to Mark, the actor, for really walking around in some threadbare clothing and getting really dirty and really cold and really lying down on a cold, damp floor and delivering a speech with such great eloquence and depth and detail. An excellent actor who hardly needed anything from me in that sense as director for the detail that he already had in his spirit, if I can put it like that, for the piece.
Thank you very much. And finally, what is your current or your next project?
Thank you. Well, I'm currently helping to look after a couple of tours for the Royal Shakespeare Company that are going around the country, and I'm also getting ready for another summer in York with the Shakespeare Rose Theatre, which is a temporary Elizabethan structure. And this year they are replicating the 4 plays that were done last year, but taking them to Blenheim Palace, and 4 new plays are coming into York. So I'm also busy interviewing for appropriate 1 or 2 assistants to help deliver work for 8 full-length Shakespeare plays.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
You for your time.